Hello, welcome back to the Prestige TV podcast feed. I'm Joanna Robinson.
I am Rob Mahoney.
It is 7 p.m., episode 13 of The Pitt, and Emma and Ogilvie have clocked out of their shifts.
Off duty.
They're done.
Monica doesn't seem thrilled about it.
Monica really thinks Emma could have pitched in. Monica not thrilled about a lot of things, it seems.
Armenian on the floor of the ED? Absolutely not.
Her eye roll was MAGA Monica in full force here on The Pitt. All right, so we're going to talk about episode 13 of The Pitt. We have some casting news that we're going to talk about in terms of season 3 of The Pitt that was just announced mere hours ago when we're recording this. Rob, where can folks reach us if they want to talk to us about The Pitt?
I'm so glad you asked, Joe. They can reach us at drsidebangs@gmail.com. That's spelled out, drsidebangs@gmail.com, or prestigetv@spotify.com, or again, Prestige TV Pod on your social media of choice.
We've got a lot of TV prescriptions going up. Some very happy customers from our TV prescriptions on the Instagram. So
100% patient satisfaction score.
Of the one person who responded, they really liked it. Okay, this episode is written by Joe Sachs and directed by Damian Marcano. And we want to start with, I think we should start with this casting news, just right up the top.
You want to go right here?
I do.
Okay. I want to say, if you don't want to know potentially critical information about what happens this season, I think it's a pretty significant spoiler.
I think it's going to be hard to avoid if you're a Pitt fan who listens to podcasts.
But look, there are many kinds. There are the pod-only Pitt fans. Yeah. There are the Tumblr-only Pitt fans.
True.
There are the deeper, darker Pitt fans going to all corners of the internet.
Do you want to save this for the end?
I think we should save it for the end.
All right, Rob being a very responsible spoiler guy.
We try.
We're going to save this casting news to the end, but it's big. It's a big one. So you should come back. All right, well, then let's start with the mailbag. Why not?
Yeah.
We got a lot of emails I saw comparing Santos stealing the scalpel to Langdon stealing meds in season 1.
I too saw this.
And which I don't mind as like a narrative parallel, but I do not see those as that as the same thing.
I don't even think it's a narrative parallel.
I mean, the vision of someone reaching into a cart and taking something.
I mean, we saw Whitaker take a sandwich. Like, I don't see the comp there.
I will just say, in my experience as the daughter of a doctor, my uncle's a doctor, those doctors are stealing supplies from the hospital all the time. My uncle used to steal like iodine and a bunch of other stuff for his home brewing setup from the hospital. My dad used to steal scrubs for us. We wore scrubs as like PJs when we were kids. So like the doctors are forever just like, you know, taking home supplies.
It's a workplace.
That's very different from stealing drugs.
Also very different from stealing a scalpel, which is not
true.
A normal, like, I'm swiping Post-its from the supply closet. But I just don't really see the parallel with the Langdon situation.
I mean, I'm fine with it as like a visual parallel, but I just don't think it's like a on the same scale of, transgression comp at all.
Absolutely not.
At all. Coke and sports. Last week on the pod, if you missed it, we talked a lot about the so-called birdie bump. This was before the Tiger Woods news hit
You're
the world.
Absolutely right.
So, but we were talking about other sports and what you might call a hit of cocaine while you're playing other sports. We got a lot of suggestions from people, specifically in your world, in the tennis world. Was there anything that you wanted to call out from our listeners?
I just feel like the lines were right there the whole time.
Yeah.
And so I did appreciate like a love line, down the line, playing the lines. I think there's a lot you can work with there, but line-oriented does feel like the way to go.
We also got a listener who's a swimmer who suggested lane lines.
Also very good.
That sounds really messy to try to do like a bump of Coke while you're all wet from the pool. Like, does that not form a paste of some kind?
Yeah. And if you have like Coke residue in or around your nose when you jump into the pool, does it just seep out into the chlorine pool?
That post-nasal drip from Coke is a real experience that I would not want to enjoy underwater, actually, at any other time. All right.
Tell us about it. That was a very personal anecdote there, Joe.
It's a fun fact that this is a true thing that happens. We also got a couple of emails. I've seen this around a bit that people are curious. They feel like med student Victoria Javadi is being called Dr. Javadi by people that she works with, even though she's a med student. I was tracking it after we got some comments about that. I was tracking inside of this episode. We see Robbie inside of the same incident where he's talking to Samira and he calls her Samira. And then he's talking to Victoria and he calls her Javadi. I don't know if there's like significance to that. The reason he needed to call her Javadi in that case was that so that Mary McCormick's character was like, yes, Javadi, I know your parents. I was at your baby shower. But in general, I will be curious to track this sort of like, I think it's interesting, this sort of first name, last name, kind of what we call various characters inside of the
also,
ED.
this one is not just first name, last name, but being called a doctor when you're not explicitly a doctor
when
yet.
she's a medical student.
I think in those cases, we get two variations, right? We get the one of, like Emma says Dr. Ogilvie in this episode in a way that like maybe a little mistaken about the hierarchy, just like an honest mistake in the way that some of the patients might. And then we have Robby telling Dr. Javadi, show your mother that you're built for the ED. And that's more of like a vote of confidence in a way.
Right. But inaccurate at the same time.
I mean, inaccurate, but, projecting.
Robby picks and chooses when he decides to support his underlings. Unclustering a clusterfuck. We got a tremendous amount of emails about your very sensible linguistic question of, does one unfuck a clusterfuck or does one uncluster a clusterfuck? Did you hear anything that felt compelling one way or another from our listeners?
So much. The problem is in both directions all the time.
Yeah.
I have read many explanations, including from, just some truly impressive grammatical minds out there who are breaking this down on the most granular level. And I feel more lost than ever as to what the truth of the matter is.
It's a very Pitt outcome that you're like, I can see it from both sides.
It's true. We just learned to accept it. There's a level of loss that we all experience in the Pitt and a level of confusion we all experience in everyday life. I'm just finding my personal Whitaker-esque balance.
It's true. It's true. Also, on the joy front, we got some emails from people who have experience working inside of hospitals or EDs who were sort of surprised by Joy leaving early.
Yeah.
Inside of this episode, we get sort of a comment from Santos where she was like, smart girl that she left at 6:59. This is a real generational divide question. And I've experienced it myself as someone who's like an elder millennial, technically, that when you encounter Gen Z out in the world and they're drawing these clear boundaries, and on the one hand, an instinct that you have is like, how entitled of you, don't you know that we all have to do X, Y, Z? And at the same time, there's a voice inside of you saying like, good for you. Like, why didn't I do that? Just because I didn't have work-life balance doesn't mean you shouldn't. So this is like but shouldn't you suffer the way that I had to suffer?
For sure.
But maybe you shouldn't, because it should be better for the next generation. So like, this is something that I've experienced myself as I've watched like younger people come up inside of the workplace behind me. Any thoughts and feelings on this?
I think a lot of us, generationally are coming from that same perspective. And then a lot of the people who emailed in too, there was a lot of suggestion of like, oh, if you did this, there would be professional consequences. Oh, if you did this, you wouldn't be regarded in the same way by your superiors. Yeah. I mean, the perspective is, what if that's not the worst thing in the world?
Right.
What if it's okay to clock out more or less on time and do your job and show up and be a professional, but then go home at the end of the day and you don't have to climb the ladder? Wouldn't that be an acceptable way to live?
And particularly for someone like Joy, who's like, I have no interest in the ED. Like, this is not where I want to make my name. I want to do pathology.
Yes.
I don't give a shit about this. So
she's getting stamps on her punch card as she rounds her way into the things she actually is interested in doing.
Exactly. All right, let's meet the night shift before we get into everything. I thought we might want to break down some of the returnee and new characters that we have. Like last week, Mateo walked in. Dr. John Shen walked in last week.
Our goat.
We had already seen Dr. Ellis this season, but Dr. Ellis is here. And then, of course, Dr. Jack Abbott is here. But then we've got two new people. Mm-hmm. Dr. Cruz Henderson is played by Luke Tenney of Shrinking fame. So he's here. We're on cruise control with him. What was your first impression of this character?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very clear initially that he just has very good patient rapport, like a very soft rapport with them. And in particular, does something that, granted, is easier to do at the beginning of your shift than at the end. But even then, relative to the other doctors, just like talking directly and empathetically to patients and understanding how critical a part of the job that is.
It's so funny. As a, we've been with the day shift all day. I was like a little, when he was like, we'll get you home real quickly.
That was an overpromise.
I was like, okay, but then he did. And I was like, oh, never mind. Yeah. He can back all of that up.
Things have cooled down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The systems are back online.
Yeah.
There are enough beds that like no one is rushing Digby out the door. You know, like things have chilled to the point that you can do the rounds with both parts of the staff and make some promises and maybe even deliver on them.
Also, we have Dr. Nazali Tamarian, played by Sophia Hemsick, and this is her first day. She's an intern, which she's a first-year resident, so it's like Santos last season or Whitaker this season. That's the level that she's coming in on. This is her first day, and they Like she's here on the night shift. This is her getting to meet everyone. So this is who we have on staff then. And then Nurse Vivi, we had already met. I don't know if she's technically the night shift, but she seems like she's kind of here. So we've got Mateo, Nurse Vivi. Dr. Tamarian is the first-year resident. Dr. Cruz Henderson is a fourth-year resident. They're senior resident.
Right.
Dr. Parker Ellis, also a senior resident.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just because I've Googled this.
Well, I mean, but there's a lot of conflicting Googling of titles.
I believe she's a fourth-year resident, but you think she's third year?
Well, I'm wondering because, so Cruz Henderson is referred to by Abbott as the senior resident.
Yeah.
And if they're parallel, I would think they would be co-senior residents, to which the answer to the question of who's our senior would be both Ellis and Henderson, which leads me to believe that maybe she's on some kind of fellowship track that hasn't quite been said explicitly, but maybe.
Here's the even more confusing wrinkle.
Okay.
We have two attendings.
We do.
Dr. John Shen is an attending and Dr. Jack Abbott is an attending.
Isn't it crazy that Robby doesn't care?
Isn't that fascinating?
So weird.
We got an email from our listener, Kate, about this, just in reference to Robby's objection to two attendings on the day shift, right? She said, his protestations against having two attendings on the day shift really confused me because the night shift has two, Abbott and Shen, and nights are typically quieter than days. So I went to my in-house expert, my husband, who is a supervising PA and a major city ED, to ask what's the normal staffing level in an ED like that. And he said, quote, large volume teaching hospitals typically have 3 to 5 attendings minimum per shift. Rural community hospitals typically have 1 attending. So the idea of a major city tertiary care center that is also a teaching hospital with many residents running a shift with 1 attending is laughable, end quote. So Kate said, so this all feels purely written for plot character and not at all realistic to how EDs run, which is fine. This is television.
Yeah.
Also, P.S., the vast majority of the white nurses that my husband works with are Trump supporters / conservatives and married to cops / firefighters, way more Monicas than Danas in that profession. So, but yeah, going back to this, like it is very much a construct of this television that we have like Robby, the leader, and the hierarchy under him. But it is fascinating that the night shift, a calmer shift, has 2 attendings, a senior resident, and if you are correct, then Dr. Ellis is at least
someone quite senior.
Yeah, on the shift.
But
fascinating.
It also tracks that even if this institutional progress would be pushing the day shift to have multiple attendings, even before now, Robby would be the kind of person who is like Spider-Man holding himself in front of the train, insisting that it's a solo job.
I don't want it, he says in his Jon Snow voice. Okay. And then 2 new sort of like other staff members I want to talk about, which is Dr. Linda Conley of Neurology, Division Chief of Neurology, working a holiday weekend, played by Mary McCormick. We had talked about how she was going to be appearing this season. You know her and love her from West Wing. A lot of people know her and love her from ER. So she has a lot of ties to John Wells. And then Dr. Clay Barrett, played by Jeffrey Owens, who comes in to talk to Robby about Duke.
Yes.
And he's basically like, there are limits to where you can push your friend, my guy.
Yeah.
And here's where the rubber meets the road. Jeffrey Owens, the actor Jeffrey Owens, I know from The Cosby Show. He played Dr. Elvin Thibodeau, who is like one of Bill Cosby's, Dr. Huxtable's son-in-law. But he's like another TV doctor. So these are 2 TV doctors that they brought on to play like 1 episode, 2 episode TV doctors. So I just think it's really fun.
It's true.
And they should just like keep doing that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many specialties. There's so many places in the hospital you can pluck from. And the fact that you have, if you're familiar, this built-in institutional knowledge of these people as doctors. And if you're unfamiliar, they just know how to play a doctor, you know? Jeffrey
Owens, the actor who was on The Cosby Show. I don't know if you saw this story. I think it was like 5 years ago. He was working at
about Bill Cosby?
Have you heard the news?
I did see that one,
you heard the news about Bill Cosby? He was working at Trader Joe's, and like someone took a photo of him and like put it online and could be like, oh my God, Elvin from The Cosby Show is working at Trader Joe's now. And he's like, hey, yeah, guess what? I'm a working actor and sometimes you're not working. And then he's gotten like a lot of, like various people reached out to him and was like, Tyler Perry's like, hey man, come like be part of my universe or whatever. So
I wish I didn't take that, but I'm glad that things took that direction.
Yeah, exactly. So I was excited to see him here. I was Elvin was like a very memorable character to me on The Cosby Show. Okay. Those are all the new stuff. Anything else you want to say? I mean, we'll talk about them as the storylines go forward, but anything you want to say about their introduction or these actors or anything like that?
Well, we should also note that Lena would normally be the charge nurse for the night shift. Dana has given her the night off with no real plan on how to fill that spot.
I'll find coverage, she said.
Finding coverage for a night shift in real time with no notice feels a lot like Dana is just going to pull a double?
Probably.
Yeah.
She did have, she sent Lena home hours ago.
She
so,
did.
She had time to find someone. And
But not a call was placed.
But also, it's 4th of July. It's the nighttime. Maybe someone's been drinking all day. Who's to say? Anything else you want to say about these new cast members?
I'm glad to have them. I think especially Dr. Tumarian too
I really liked her.
I mean, a welcome presence, good energy, distinct character, but also a type of character we don't have, which is someone on the night shift who isn't very senior. Right. We're used to the Ellises and the Shens.
The cowboys are here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's where are the med students? Where are the the younger doctors who are learning, who are being taught? And so to see someone who's kind of stumbling around on the night shift, I thought was a welcome presence
I think
here.
they're usually, I think that's more loaded onto the day shift
Makes
in
sense.
general. But
there must be some exceptions,
for
right?
Sure. So I want to start here, sort of after we've gotten to all of that. Now that it's over, how did the outage work for you as a storyline this season?
Okay. I think it worked well as a misdirect of, this big chaotic thing is happening. And then in real time, most of the characters learned to navigate it, figured it out. I thought this episode did a good job of crystallizing some of the subtler costs, right? That even though it wasn't as frenetic as a mass shooting event, there's still cases like Mr. Green where it's if the computers had been working, they would have been on top of his aortic aneurysm from the beginning. They would have known his full medical history. But between that and an experienced med student working with him, they didn't get the full chart represented in real time.
What I really like about that, I mean, obviously I don't love that Mr. Green is no longer with us and Ogilvie is traumatized, but what I like about that scenario as well is there's patient responsibility too, because so as someone who had major surgery last year, I have 6-month checkups that I have to do with my doctor for several years in the future to check how I am doing after that procedure.
Yeah.
And that's my responsibility to make those appointments and show up for those appointments. And Mr. Green just stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And that's an understandable thing. You're just sort of I feel better. I'm
Right.
fine. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this maintenance. But that is a patient responsibility. And hopefully if all of your systems are working, you in the hospital have a check for that. But there's just sort of a very understandable human patient negligence, a computer outage, Samira's, distraction today, if you want to put it that way, and then Ogilvie being new and not knowing what to look for.
Yeah.
All of those things combined wind up with this guy not making it. So I thought that was I like that part too, that sort of patient responsibility being part of it.
Well, and just the difference in patient behavior and understanding as it results to their own medical history, right? There are people, and I've been guilty of this, of you go in for an appointment or something, they ask for your medical history, and you have to really rack your brain to think, when was that surgery? When was this treatment? When was this thing that I was in for? And then we've seen patients come through the ED where it's they have chapter and verse because they've been in such recurring pain or they haven't been taken seriously. It's they are in and out of the hospital or doctor's offices all the time. Versus someone like Mr. Green, you're right. He goes home, he feels better, and you have the luxury of kind of forgetting about it almost. Right. And then all of a sudden it creeps back up in a really terrible and unfortunate way. Anything
else you want to say about the outage? I think I agree. I think it was an interesting concept in terms of let's take us back to how medicine worked in the 90s on ER, which is not the same show if the Crichton estate is listening, all that sort of stuff like that. An excuse to bring Monica in, who's an interesting, at least flavor to have here.
Yes. I like having her on the show for the record.
Me too, as a character.
Yes.
I don't want to have any cigarette or meal with her, but.
Well, you're a snowflake.
They say that about me. Yeah, I mean, overall, I will say this. There's another storyline that gets kind of wrapped up in this episode that I feel pretty low on. So I'm gonna say I feel pretty medium on the outage. I think medium plus on the outage. Pretty good. Let's talk about rounds as a good way to sort of make sure we understand who these new characters are and also where we stand with everyone. First, before we get to rounds, we get this checkup on Nurse Jessie, and I thought we might just take a moment to sort of check in on everything we learn about Jessie here. Santos is telling Dr. Henderson about it. McKay let us know that Jessie did a little more than just put a hand on the ICE agent, and I love that for him. Dr. Al-Hashimi says the lawyer's on the case, and then Perla later has some info.
Yeah. She's got her ear to the ground.
That he's 2 hours away. And then later, Langdon, Perla, Abbott, and Robbie are talking about it, and they're like, he's going to be locked up the entire weekend, and that sucks. There's nothing we can do for him. So Jessie is in the Clearfield Containment Center for the rest of the weekend until Monday.
Yeah, and that's a best-case scenario.
That sucks.
Although in the processing of that information, Perla, again, relaying that her brother-in-law is a cop. She's got inside info.
Yeah.
We spent half of this episode with Dr. Robby going full detective mode on Dr. Alashimi, being like, okay, what's her deal? What's going on? What's her history at the VA? Not once did he think, this is a great buddy cop moment with me and Perla.
No.
I should bring in the detective who has actual information and clearly knows what she's doing.
Now that's all I want.
I think it could be a great setup.
But actually,
for the
I don't
two
think
of
I
them.
want Rob. I want Perla on the case, but I don't know that I want Robby on the
That's
case.
true.
I want a different partner. Who in the ED else would you put with Perla?
I mean, Perla's a lone wolf. Like when she's with Princess, they have a 1-2 act for sure. But I could see her just going full noir, high collar, trench coat, creeping around the ER,
yeah.
just really, really digging up clues.
I love that. Also, real tragedy for our guy, Dr. John Shen. No card or cake or flowers for Robby.
What the hell?
He really wanted that cake. He's pretty disappointed. Rob, what's your stance on a going away party?
Pro?
Okay, as you know, I'm in the process of moving.
Yes.
Leaving Northern California, where I've lived like basically my entire life, to move down here to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
There are several people in my life who are trying to talk me into a going away party.
Yeah.
I'm anti.
Okay, I want to qualify my stance.
Okay.
I am good with going away parties for contained groups of people. You know what I don't want?
Yeah.
All of the pockets of people in my life intermingling. That's
No.
messy. I don't want that.
I also just don't want like a big, like a fuss.
Not much ado.
Yeah, much ado about nothing. And also, especially, I mean, do you do a cake for like a 3-month sabbatical? I mean, as Robby says ominously at the end of this episode, perhaps
maybe
I'm not
not
coming back, but like, it's just a sabbatical. He's not leaving the department for good, you know?
I'm inclined to agree with Dr. Shen because my policy on going away parties is probably similar to mine on birthdays, which is I don't want to celebrate my own, but I want to celebrate everyone else's.
Yeah.
So like, if you're going away, let's have a party.
I will
if I'm going away, I want to slink out the back door.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go to a going away party. I just don't want one for me.
Entirely fair.
That sounds like my nightmare, to be honest with you. With love and respect.
If you're Joe's friends out there, now you know.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't celebrate
You are
me.
planning a surprise party? Don't do it.
I don't want it. I mean, sometimes surprise parties are fun.
Okay, now you're being confusing.
No, I don't want a going away party. But like when you were a kid, did you ever have a surprise party?
I loathe a surprise party.
Okay, tell me why.
It's a lot of attention on me at a moment where I don't want it.
Here's what okay.
Let's get into my control issues. Okay, now.
Here's the moment on every episode of The Pitt where we do therapy. When I was in college, a friend of mine, his birthday was like 4 days after mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of our friends told me it was a surprise party for him. And they told him it was a surprise party for me.
But the answer was both.
And it was like a surprise party for both of us.
That's pretty good.
That was great.
That's a good move.
Like, that was really fun because I was like, wow, you thoroughly got me in a really fun way.
That's some quality friending right there.
It's really smart. Okay. For reals, let's do rounds. Dialysis dad.
Yeah.
Digby still here. Charles
Still
Baker
here.
still collecting his paychecks for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Digby and Baby Jane down here all day. Water ski knee tweak.
Yeah.
Lillian Stegman is the patient there.
She really wanted to flex about it too.
Oh, well, wouldn't you?
I think if you injured your knee doing a water skiing stunt, like that's just what it is. You don't need to be like, I went off this high ramp. I was doing a 360.
You definitely would, Rob. Are you kidding me?
I think.
What if you injured yourself playing tennis, but you did something like really cool, injuring yourself?
I don't know. I think once you injure yourself, it's not that cool anymore.
I don't know. Like, this reminds me of there was like the Evel Knievel guy earlier this season. I just feel like people who do like daredevil water skiing are always wanting to talk about like,
well, that part is definitely true.
How daring and deviling their water ski move was.
No argument from me.
And then Heat Stroke Mom gets a sort of mention. Any like follow up on that case? Do you feel like we're gonna get? You know, what's been interesting. Chris and I were talking about this a little bit on the watch. The way in which the actors have come out this season a bunch and talked about like, hey, you're watching a different show than the one we're making.
Yeah.
Whether that's sort of Patrick Ball and Taylor Dearden talking about the Langdon Mel King dynamic, or this idea of like trying to solve the mystery of the Pit. Now, we've talked about this. I agree in some way the Pit is trying to sort of set up like a medical mystery for you. What's happening with Dr. Al-Hashimi? We still don't know. Detective Robby's on the case. Surely we'll find out before the end of the season. But then like maybe there are things like Heat Stroke Mom where the point is not, did she do it? Who done it? It's not a true crime podcast and look at the dirt under the fingernails. It's just a sort of like, isn't this a horrible situation? So I don't know, like where are you on that? Do you feel like we're gonna get sort of a dun 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 reveal or not? What do you think?
I mean, no idea if we're going to get the full reveal, but we will get more information just by virtue of a couple of things. One, heat stroke kid himself is still upstairs being treated. And so I would imagine we at least get some declaration of whether he's okay or not or what his status is. We also know that his dad has arrived. We haven't met him yet. The dad went straight up to be by his kid's side, has not stopped by to see the mom at all. So I would think we will see the dad. And I think we will get some progress report, if not actual closure.
With 2 hours left in the season,
yeah,
are you starting to sort of have a running tabulation of the things that you need resolved? And how high on the list do you put heat stroke mom versus will Langdon and Robby have another meaningful conversation or not?
Well, there's kind of like patient cases and then doctor issues in separate categories. So it's hard to weigh against each other. But among the patient cases, I don't know that there's anything else that's like lingering other than heat stroke kid and his mom.
Right.
Because, dialysis dad is soon to be discharged, it seems, doing much better.
We know Howard made it through surgery.
Yep. This asthmatic kid seems to be making a full recovery.
Okay.
We don't know about baby Jane Doe, so...
Orlando, we won't know what's happening with Orlando.
But we're also briefed that we won't know for weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Orlando case is...
devastating.
An absolute disaster.
The way that Noelle comes down is like, well, now you qualify for this, that, and the other thing.
Is this the time to settle the bill?
Guess what? Let's talk about Noelle Hastings, RN. I'm out on this entire storyline. I think her stuff with Robby this episode and as a season as a whole, because I presume this is their goodbye, has not worked for me. And I don't know if it's like a lack of chemistry between the actors or just the way, like, I just don't, it's a difference between liking a character or not. I don't like Ogilvie, but I think he's a very like useful character this season.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Noelle Hastings, this has worked at all for me at any juncture. I was like waiting for a payoff of her relationship with Robby or her dynamic with Dana or anything like that. And as like a conveyance of information about the way in which billing works at the hospital, she's been like a useful sort of exposition machine.
In the same way that like the social workers pop up to explain policy.
But like with the Robby stuff, this just fell really flat for me.
Well, she's not really a character.
Right.
Like she serves a couple of purposes. You nailed a couple of them. I think one of them is just having a person who works with Robby who would also be spending time with him outside of the ED.
Right.
Who has seen him in other contexts. And the fact that
she knows that he needs the TV on or else he can't sleep.
Knows his most intimate details.
He's not sleep maxing, I'll tell you that much right now.
No, he's not. He's watching like Mad About You reruns or something. You know, I don't know what he's doing.
Great choice, honestly.
We're all looking to be soothed in our own ways. And so to have that kind of inside information and still be as worried about him as she is, I think is telling, right? It's not that everyone who works with Robby doesn't know more, but that's literally all she does on the show is like pop down, maybe a stray flirt.
Like flirt.
And then leave?
I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
I was hoping for more, and this certainly felt like the last we're going to see of Noelle Hastings this season. Didn't really go anywhere.
I did love the Abbott sort of shoulder check in that moment, but like...
There's a couple of great Sean Hannity moments in this episode, and this was among them, him like wiggling his way through their send-off. Just tremendous
their
stuff.
Their tender farewell. He's like, guess... This plot line's not working for me either. So
that's why he was raising his eyebrows.
Wrap it up.
It's like, we're spending this much time on this?
Yeah, wrap it up. Something that did work on me, I would say my most emotional moment or investment in this episode is the Digby stuff.
Yeah.
This was a tremendous payoff of like a season long.
13 episodes.
Yeah. My one exception to that is I think Dr. Tamarian being like, there's a different guy in that bed was pretty dumb. But everything else, like... made me cry.
Yeah.
This is a great moment for Emma, a character that we have been sort of like up and down on this season, but like finished, I think, really strong.
Agreed.
Dana's bedside manner with him, the way that she talked to him, the way that he talks about like his daughter living in his house. And you're like, what? Like, how did that happen? What's going on there? But also like Emma and Dana don't have to solve that. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to just give him this like loving care. His fear that they won't recognize him so they won't be able to find him. Emma saying, did you dance with your daughter at your wedding that she'll always remember you? Like this really, really got to me. And I thought Charles Baker was really, really good in this role. And I thought this was a tremendous sort of, I mean, I don't know if this is the end of Digby's role in the show, again, with only 2 more episodes. But like, if so, this is like tremendous arc, I think.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Especially because in typical Pitt fashion, this is like all playing with Digby basically the way you would expect this show to handle it, right? In terms of what it's trying to say about this character and his place in the world and his place in the ED and the dignity of just like getting a shave and a haircut and a shower and some sandwiches and just the time to recover where he doesn't have to be, looking for where he's going to be sleeping that night or whatever his situation may be. It's all kind of like playing the beats. And then you get that shot of him in the hand mirror, like seeing himself after his haircut for the first time. And it's an amazing, beautiful moment. And the fact that the show can kind of like thread you along in all the ways you expect and still land those sorts of things. And we saw it all throughout season 1 too, right? It's like, yeah, it's going to really hurt when this teenager who overdosed dies and the family has to reckon with it. But then you get the walk through the hospital and it's what you expect, but hitting in a totally different way. And that was a lot of the Digby moments in this episode for me.
And also say like Digby starts in a place of like real, his, we talked about the maggots and the cast obviously, but like, in terms of like dignity and who is owed what and all of that from the shower, like from the beginning, Dana is really sort of, instructing Emma on this idea of like Digby or Mr. Digby and his, but then like to a certain degree, he became a bit of comic relief. He's just sort of like
hanging around,
sort of like sunburned bikini babe who gets a great walkthrough inside of this episode, like just there. And, just occasionally just sort of like still there, still doing well, Mr. Digby, like, just Digby, all of that sort of stuff like that. So to then, in Pitt fashion, twist the knife and make it like an extremely emotional moment was, I thought, really, really good.
I did have one question.
Yes, sir.
About did you dance with your daughter at her wedding?
Yeah.
What if the answer is no? Like, what if he had, like, what's...
Pivot. Emma can pivot.
That's a tough lob to then have to just like back slowly away from. So it landed perfectly.
Yeah.
And Emma gets just the moment her day has been building towards as well. In terms of showing him that kindness and knowing like exactly how to comfort this person who is in need of just like, he's just panicking, right? He's having a momentary panic about his ability to connect with his family after looking and feeling like a new man. But yeah, I don't know what the audible was on that one. If it fell flat.
Did you pose with any photos? What else do dads? Did you walk her down the aisle? There are other things that dads do at weddings.
Hopefully so.
Okay. Whitaker, Santos, Mohan, King, and McKay are all on charting, scanning, shredding duty at various points in this episode as they try to get out of there. But like, Santos is like, I live here now, I guess.
Well, we did learn, this is what's going to keep them around, right? We thought it was going to be charting. No, it's scanning.
Yeah. She's not even going to get to her charting that she's behind on because she's got to scan and shred. I just want to shout out a few things. McKay fighting the scanner / fax machine. I see you and I identify with you and I love it. And then we get Santos and Whitaker having sort of like another conversation about their living situation. I loved this.
All the Whitaker Santos stuff this season's been really, really great.
Their little like exchange of glances, not glances, like these very like shy sort of encounter at the very tail end of that conversation. We've talked before about the Pitt fandom and their tendency to sort of like ship various characters and stuff like that. But I do love that the Pitt does a really good job of these platonic relationships and how important, Santos is hooking up with Garcia, but that is far from the most important, nourishing, the opposite of that relationship in her life. But Whitaker is here as like a complete lifeline to her in terms of like someone who sees her and supports her and cares about her. And she's a tough person. McKay in this episode is like, Jesus.
We're gonna get to that, yeah.
So she's a tough person to know. She's a prickly person. But she extended a lifeline to him at the end of last season when she's like, hey man, you're living in the hospital, come live in my house. After bullying him like all day. And,
it can be both.
And he's here to offer this to her, which is just sort of like, I'm not gonna leave you at the first opportunity.
Right.
Which I thought was really beautiful.
But also knowing her well enough to know to not say that.
Right.
Right. It's like she is a skittish enough person where if he was overtly supportive, she would reject it.
Well, he even said last episode, he was like, you just have to say it.
Yeah.
Just say it. And then she doesn't say it and he offers it to her anyway.
He does.
So.
And here it's all like, I could maybe just stop by Robbie's to take care of stuff. Like never overtly saying, even that I want to stay or that
you need
I
me
can
around.
feel that you need me around or that you need some company right now.
Love it when I steal your avocados. I get really mad if someone, like, especially if you waited to
this economy?
To the perfect ripeness.
Come on.
And then it's gone.
I'm waiting multiple days to get that thing right in the zone.
Ugh, absolutely not. Whitaker on the magnetic nose jewelry. Anything you want to say about that?
I mean, this one's like open and shut before it's done. Pretty clever. To me, this is just like Whitaker's moment to what he talks about with Ogilvie later about this is actually kind of a high stakes situation. And he just kind of deals with it with a bit of ingenuity. You know, it's
being there for someone on their worst day.
I mean, it was almost that girl's worst day. Like the thought of her nose being disfigured was about the worst thing that she could think of in that moment. So he was there with the answer, and he was there to do something that was not horribly painful. So check.
And it's a great moment of like Dr. Ingenuity when you use a tool, but not for its intended purpose. Yeah. And he just sort of like, no, we're going to use the other side of it. We're going to do this. And clearly he's like seen some other doctor taught him how to do that. And so he's like, guess what? And he's teaching a new doctor how to do it at the same time. So
I have questions about the science. Like what is happening with the reverse end of those forceps? What are those?
They look like medical grade tweezers.
Medical grade tweezers, my favorite.
Yeah.
But like, why would the pointy, the grabby end of the medical grade tweezers not also be magnetically pulling enough?
Well, he slid it under. You need like a flat. Doesn't he slide it under?
I thought he just kind of hovers it outside and it pops with the magnetic force.
Okay.
Well, but maybe I'm mistaken. We'll have to revisit.
Okay.
If you're an expert in magnetics, please email us at drsidebangs@gmail.com.
If you're Jesse Pinkman, please do email us. drsidebangs@gmail.com. And last but not least on this sort of like section, I will say Mel King kicking the shredder, like Fonzing the shredder so hard it knocks into Santos.
It's good.
And Isa Briones basically like breaking. Like she's for real laughing, that actress. Like I just really liked that moment.
Can I raise you on the kick with first the beep, beep, beep?
It's pretty good. I really hope that was like an improv. I really feel like Taylor Dearden as Mel King is
locked in.
Has such a beat on like the weird, quirky things that her character would do. Love it. All right. Anything else you want to say about Maga Monica before we leave her?
Let's kick her to the curb, honestly.
Okay. Real joy. Okay. Orlando. I'm gonna describe what Samira does in this episode as wilting, just completely dissolving, right? She learns about Mr. Green dying from Whitaker, giving up on the ultrasound application when Dr. Henderson's like, guess what? I got this in the bag, babe.
I'm diagnosing patients. I've published literature. Yeah, it's not looking good as far as that goes.
And then asking this medic about the like working conditions around the job site to sort of see if there was like something that wasn't related to his diabetes that could have been involved in his fall here. And then like her just like completely shell-shocked inside of this entire, trauma moment, like snapping back at Robby and Garcia, but also sometimes just not responding because she's just completely out of it. This devastates me as someone who's like emotionally invested in Samira, who's had like a terrible day.
Right.
To see her completely dissolve like this because you want her to just be like last season, she got all this shit for being so slow and then she just like comes through in the trauma moment at the end of the season. But this just feels like we're just like continuously nosediving for this character. How did you feel about that?
I mean, it's incredibly tough to watch. And I think in particular, the moments you identified with Garcia and Robby, where it's sort of like, I know we're at a teaching hospital, but I don't want to fucking be taught right now.
Right.
Like she's so invested in this case to the point where, when the opportunity does come up to assist Dr. Conley in terms of addressing Orlando's skull fracture, I completely co-signed that Samira should not be involved in that, right? Like she is too emotionally hit. She's too close to this case. Like that's a good decision to sit that particular one out.
Also give Victoria the out, but like Robby's like, I'm going to push you. So,
I want to circle back to that one because I think it's like a little more nuanced. But in terms of where Mohan is at this point in the day, like she is devastated. She's taken hits at every turn, not just by like a day and a bunch of cases that are almost like structured to push her to her limits over the course of this season.
Yeah.
But also having this tailspin about her career in the process, also having this underlying stuff with her family and her mom going on that we don't really know the full extent of.
We did get an email from a listener who did not want to be identified, but she was pointing out she was a little disappointed that both Victoria and Samira, Mohan and Devon, as like, Southeast Asian women have these storylines related to their moms. And this listener was a little like, that's a little stereotypical for like both of these characters to have the moms as the overbearing mothers as their as their trigger points.
I mean, it's a totally fair flag.
So what do you want to say about Victoria that feels a little more nuanced to you? I mean, it is, but like.
So I this one was interesting because it is not unlike Dr. Javadi, show your mom that you're built for this. Like it is a vote of confidence from Robby. And it is a push at a time where Javadi's having her own moments of crisis, right? She's had a tough time with patients all day. She's kind of second guessing herself and her own instincts. But there's something about the way Robby does it that is like a little forceful, that is like, this is a great opportunity and you need to take it. And I'm almost like not accepting you to decline it. But the way he follows it up by staying in the room and the thumbs up.
Thumbs up, double thumbs up.
He's not throwing her into the deep end and then leaving in the way that he has with other doctors all throughout the day, all throughout both seasons. This is like, this is an opportunity for you. I see you being a little shaken in your confidence right now, and I'm telling you, you can do this.
I don't disagree with you. And I just think that, like, if I were her manager, I would have been like, you don't have to do this today. But the conversation that he offers her, Whitaker's emotional support of Santos, Mel King talking to Langdon when he feels dispirited, just no one has done that for Samira today.
And the moment where it looks like Robby might, he just wants to know the dirt on Alashimi.
Right.
That was heartbreaking.
Really tough.
Because she is like spacing out into the computer, completely lost in the woods. And it's like, it finally seems like he might be pulling her aside for the right word.
There was a moment when he's talking to Mrs. Diaz and he's like, we honor, your husband had all the information. We honored him. From a certain point of view, that's him backing Mohan up. But also it's him legally covering their asses. It's just sort of like, so it can be both things. But like, that was a moment where I was like, okay, well, he's like on her team. Yeah. And he never says to Samira, like, why did you let him leave? So he doesn't do that. But I just like, Mohan really needed someone today to like, we've talked about this before, like Dana talking to Mel in the stairwell, like someone to just like sit down and be like, I see you as a person, like perhaps when she had her panic attack, like Langdon was taking care of her. Joy like got her in the wheelchair. There are people who like showed up, but no one just sat down and said, let's have an emotional heart to heart about how you're feeling about your mom. Yeah. Now, again, there's 2 more hours in the shift, so this could still happen. Like, Robby's been giving her nothing but shit all day. So I would love for someone to show up for her the way, but it's realistic.
It is.
That like, for many of these characters, there will be emotional support and emotional bulwark against like absolutely collapsing under a horrible day.
Right.
And for some of the characters, there won't be,
It's very true. I think especially when you think about the types of people who tend to get that sort of support.
Yeah.
Often it is like, younger doctors, inexperienced doctors, people who are coming up and you can see.
But Mel for Langdon,
I mean, well, Mel, they have a unique relationship clearly and have a reciprocal care for each other that I think is important. But like, I wonder if part of the problem with Mohan is like, she is very competent and she is very good at her job. And I think it is instructive to remember, like, she is literally hours away from having a panic attack on the floor and should have been going home right then and there. Not because Robby thought she was unfit for work, but like, you got to take care of yourself. And
but Emma got attacked and Emma stayed, and we're all like, good job, Emma.
Well, Emma also should have been sent home. I'm proud of her that she wanted to stay, but she also should have been sent home, right? It's like, it is kind of a having it both ways situation.
To wrap up the Orlando story, which is by no means like done, or it might be actually, but like Robby talking loudly in the middle of the ED about how he thinks Mr. Diaz might have tried to off himself, Dana catching him and later chewing him out about it.
Yeah. Or to back it up even slightly, the fact that Orlando's wife Lori has shown up unaware that he even left in the first place. Like she was just bringing him dinner.
Yeah.
I think there's something especially heartbreaking about that, and the fact that Mohan is the one to receive her and has to break the news.
But I will say that, like, when Perla tells her that Orlando's wife is there, like, Mohan, like, is not like, oh, it shouldn't be me or like whatever. She's just sort of like, okay, let me be the one to intercept her, sort of thing. The Robby-Dana stuff touches a lot of different storylines. I like that this is a conversation that, much like many of the cases in the ED, like spills out across multiple episodes. It does not make sense that this would have been like wrapped up after their non-resolution conversation last week episode. So like, I anticipate this will continue for the rest of the season, 2 more episodes. But I like I love when she calls him out. She's like, you shouldn't talk about patients out on the floor like this. And she's like, you almost got taught. He's like, but I didn't, like, over his shoulder. Like, yeah, but I didn't, like, it just feels very real, their dynamic. And we watched them be rocks for each other last season. Dana was so concerned about Robby last season, as she is this season. But this season, she has sort of like fewer spoons in her own drawer to offer him tenderness. And she's just sort of like, get your shit together,
It's a tougher love for sure.
Right? I really liked this. What did you think?
Yeah, I think the ongoing bickering between them has been great. And I think they're both quite wrong about themselves and quite right about each other. Like, for everything we've said about Robby and his martyr complex, and it's addressed overtly in this episode, Dana is putting a lot on her shoulders too.
So you get to go the extra mile and the rest of us get accused of being martyrs.
He's not wrong in this case.
Right.
And we just talked about Dana maybe just like pulling a double to cover for Lena to be able to go home. And it's like, these all come from very good places, right? Of wanting, in Dana's case, wanting to look after somebody else and give them a break.
Yeah.
But the result is now probably Dana at minimum has to find a replacement on a holiday at night.
I will say though, and I agree with you, that they're wrong about themselves and right about each other. 100% agree. And this is great shit that the Pitt is capable of. Thinking about Dana's behavior over the day, we did see her sort of like, she's very sensitized to violence against nurses, as she should be. When that patient grabs Emma's arm, and then of course in the code hula hoop moment. So I'm not saying that Dana has like all of her stuff in order. She's not taking it out on everyone else the way that Robby is. You know what I mean? Like the way that he is, they're both traumatized here, not on their best behavior.
Yeah.
Dana, I think, is much more functional inside of that dynamic than Robby is today, I think.
I think functional is where I might push back a little bit. I agree with you that she's not taking it out on other people in the same way. But if you're walking around all day with a locked and loaded syringe of like a sedative, I mean, that means you're looking for trouble around every single corner,
There's a part of me that thinks they all should have that at all times.
You may not be entirely wrong.
Yeah.
Clearly, this is a very dangerous place to work, but I'm just thinking about the baseline anxiety level of somebody who feels the necessity to do that.
Well, I think everyone needs therapy personally. So we'll see. All right. Asthma kid, Grady, who comes in. We get a lot of information about Medicaid being cut because of a mail forwarding error. And I think it's time.
Yeah. Dev, you want to cue that thing up for us?
Yeah.
Living out with the Pitt.
I mean, classic Medicaid conversation information
Right.
dump from the Pitt. We got
By clerical error, no less.
Right. A mail forwarding error. But also, like the Diaz's, she finds herself in a space where she's just like, I'm a hairstylist. I don't have like, steady pay stubs. My, my money comes and goes. So in terms of qualifying for help, she's screwed in several ways. This case is also here to show Dr. Henderson's extreme competence, which we get all episode, bearing in mind that the night shift is quite fresh on the shift. And then Dr. Langdon fucking up and freaking out about his fuck up, his oversight.
Oh, yeah. He wants to intubate anything that moves right now.
I mean, Frank, clock out. I think you can be done for the day.
Yeah, it's time, I think. At least go do some scanning.
But I just think that like Mel offering him that support and him being like, well, Robby's been riding me all day. True. What did you think was going to happen? But her being like, Robby's leaving. You just have to make it through
one day.
You can leave
a couple hours.
You can leave right now.
It's true.
And then that problem's done for you.
Imagine that.
But also her very emotionally being like, Robby's leaving. Robby, who's so famous that Becca knows who Robby is,
it's
right?
True.
The famous Dr. Rabinovich. I don't want you to leave too, right? A beautiful moment.
It is a beautiful moment. I would say, like, philosophically, Joe, do you identify more as a Nietzsche or a Kelly Clarkson?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I'm a bit more Nietzsche than I am Kelly Clarkson. How about you?
I think I might be more Kelly Clarkson.
I think you might be more Kelly Clarkson. But this is a follow-up to season 1 Mel King soothing herself with pop music.
Right.
Is a pretty great one too, I think.
I'm down for any of those montages they want to hit us with. Mel walking home at the end of every shift. I know she has to pick up Becca sometimes, but like
not today.
Just throw in the earbuds.
Yeah.
Whether it's Megan, whether it's Kelly, whatever we got going, I'm down for it.
And then Grady thanking Dr. Langdon, right? I was really scared. Thank you. And this is once again underlines what Whitaker will say to Ogilvie, which is like being there for people on their worst day. Hey, that's what this show is about, right? That's the theme of the show. But I thought that was like a really beautiful moment.
I like this one even more just because of the complexity of it.
Right. I mean, Whitaker just said the thing which we sometimes do not like that the Pitt does, where they're just sort of like, hey, did you know the thesis of our show is we're here for people on the worst day of their life? But more nuanced in what way do you want to say?
Well, I just want to say that Langdon is receiving a thanks for something that he feels he did not do. Right? Like he did not, he tried to do something and wanted to do something very dangerous.
He did do some things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like he's clearly feeling so conflicted and heavy in the moment about the risk that he was willing to take because he didn't know about the collapsed lung. And to me, that's why when Grady does say thank you, he almost like doesn't know what to say. And it's Mel who sort of accepts it on their behalf.
I read that a little differently. I hear what you're saying, but like I read it a little more like I did do something, which was like emotionally help this kid, even if I had the wrong idea about what to do. It was a team effort, but like
it was a team effort.
You know, he was there at the, initial intake of Grady and just sort of was bustling around in a way that emotionally made Grady feel better, even if it was Dr. Henderson's finger in his ribcage that really sort of saved the day there. So I could have lived without seeing that. Okay, wrapping up Ogilvie. Let's talk about Whitaker and Ogilvie. So we've been sort of expecting this all season. Like, again, our expectation of the Pitt now is that they're going to present us with a character we don't like and then force us to confront the ways in which we do like them before the shift is over.
Yep.
And so Ogilvie being the absolute inhuman worst and then meeting Mr.
Okay, that might be a slight exaggeration. He's not a serial killer.
He might be. I don't know that he's not. He said some shit that we were like, come on, would even the worst person say that? And then
the tact is not great.
And then we got many emails from people being like, actually, yes. But his emotional bond with Mr. Green and then just sort of like Whitaker discovering him and giving him the grace of giving him advice that he received in season 1 and giving him the grace of you don't even have to go back in there. I mean, I think I presume his keys in his wallet are in his locker, so I think you should have to go back in there. But let's just assume they're not and he could just walk home or something like that. I don't know. But I thought this was a lovely moment.
Yeah, I could see him being a bike rider. I could see him being, Joe, one of the people who rides around on one of those like motorized unicycles. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Absolutely not.
You don't think he would ride on one of those?
A motorized Ogilvie?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, he has that energy to me.
No. That guy he might roll up one leg of his pants and get on a bike.
Sure.
But still, I presume he locked that bike and he needs the key to that lock, which is in his locker. So I just have some questions about that. But
I did love this exchange overall.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is a little like, let's just say all the stuff out loud. And in particular, I mean, people die and we do the best we can, but people die is about as much of a thesis statement for the show as you could make.
I think I like being here for people on the worst day of their lives. Hey, that's the show.
Also hits.
Yeah.
But I think you need all of it, right? Like you need the being there for the people on the worst day of their lives. And I think most critically and what makes the Pitt is like you need people who are trying their best. And it's like they're wrong, they're misguided, they're driven by ambition, they're driven by the dynamics of the room, whatever it is. But the earnestly trying is what, to me, separates like a lot of medical dramas from other workplace dramas, right?
Sure.
There's the infighting and stuff doesn't often come at the expense of patient care. At least like directly,
Hopefully.
we are hopefully, ideally.
Yeah.
But like we're trying to save this person's life in an urgent situation. Yeah. Usually that's just like, we got to get this blood pressure under control. We got to get this heart rate going, like whatever it is. And the fact that you can be trying your best and lose people no matter how good your best is, that's good television. It's good drama. It's good on Whitaker to tell us what to look for in terms of the framing of the show.
We'll keep our eye on Duke. We get a diagnosis, right? That he is textbook aortic ascending aneurysm, 50% 1-year mortality, not just the diagnosis, but also the prognosis. So something to watch. It's a bad diagnosis. We'll see how Robby handles it. But like, I assume that this will be a conversation that is not just related to Duke's future, but also Robby's future and him going on this trip at all. I
mean, this is the whole point to me of the conversation he's having about trying to get Duke fast-tracked into surgery, right? He wants to get everything in order before he leaves because he might not come back. And that includes getting his friend who's a little hesitant to get medical care into surgery, basically not like before he can walk it back.
You alluded to the detective duo of Robby and Perla, but Robby is here on the case with Dr. Al-Hashimi,
This guy's unbelievable.
Pulling Samira out to ask her about this is like one thing. Him like asking her, how long did you work with Dr. Al-Hashimi at the VA or whatever while they're working on Orlando is, again.
This man has a drill in his skull and you're like, this is the time?
Not the time. He confronts her, she brushes it off, but I assume this is all gonna come to a head in the next 2 episodes.
I mean, he's just looking for literally any reason to not leave. And so he has drummed up one, and the fact that he can be suspicious of Dr. Al-Hashimi of all people, I mean, just makes it that much easier.
Sunburned Bikini Babe as our new like furry is I'm a big fan of. I suggest a drinking game. Take a shot. I think preferably a red, white, or blue Jell-O shot anytime you see the sunburn victim walk back and forth in the frame.
But not red, white, or blue magnetic jewelry.
Nope, just
Don't
Jello
do that.
shots. Just the Jello shots. Someone, I think in our comments, compared her to, are you aware of the Llama Lincoln showgirl bit from SNL?
No.
This is from like the very beginning of SNL's history. I wrote an article on it years ago, but like that in the background of not a lot, but occasionally in the background, if they're filming the hallway, like in the hallway offset, in the background, you will see someone dressed as Lincoln, someone dressed as a showgirl or a llama. And it's just sort of like a visual gag that they have used since the 70s on SNL. So I like the idea of like the furry and the sunburned bikini babe. And like, let's think of a third one as the sort of like Llama Lincoln showgirl of the Pitt. Yeah. I'm a big fan of it.
If you have a finish to our tic-tac-toe, prestigetv@spotify.com, please.
Our last case before we get to this sort of casting spoiler that you wanted to talk about is it's Sara Wyle, is Noah Wiley's wife.
It sure is.
As Ashley Davis. And I just have to say, as someone who lives in crunchy Northern California for another week, in crunchy Northern California, and hangs out with a lot of crunchy Northern California people.
Yep.
My pal and I were watching this episode together. We were like, this is a supplements issue. Like immediately we were like, this is what this is. Not that it was turmeric necessarily, but we were just sort of like, this chick who's like, I'm a vegan. Yeah. We were like, this is a supplements issue. McKay coming to Santos and being like, you're great at figuring out the weird stuff. And I thought Santos is like,
I actually say that about you, Joe.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
If I needed someone to crack the real weird stuff, I feel like I would bring it to you.
Well, I just look at the online trends, just think about what's the stupidest thing that someone could do and like assume that they've done it. But I loved Santos is like very casual, like, oh yeah, sleep maxing. Oh, sure. Cold room, eye mask. I mean, honestly, the way she described it, I was like, I think I might be a sleep maxer, perhaps, but I don't take turmeric, so it's okay.
You're getting those numbers up, though.
Cold room.
Yeah.
You and I have already talked about eye masks and how we enjoy them. White noise.
I guess I'm unintentionally sleep maxing. My only problem is I'm just getting like 5 hours of sleep maxing.
Your white noise is like whatever's playing on the television.
Don't worry about it.
The Robby style white noise. Anyway, so Santos being both good at diagnosing and too caustic for Dr. McKay.
Yeah.
Is she the Dr. Gregory House of this show?
Wow. I didn't put it together, but kinda.
Terrible bedside manner.
Yeah.
Really good at the weird stuff.
Really good at the weird stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the part of Santos, too, that you just like can't defend. I can justify and explain a lot of what she does. This part, like.
But she's both really good at something and then like horribly dim view of humanity side by side. That's the Santos brew, you know?
But I think she crosses within this conversation the line from like healthy cynicism to like outright hostility.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's the difference between what's the stupidest thing a person could do, and I assume they did it. Like that, I think is like good cynicism for a doctor.
And then she keeps going.
Yeah, she did it because she's a big fucking idiot.
Yeah, and Cassie's like, okay.
Let me slowly back away from this conversation.
I have a date at an art gallery to get to. Okay.
I think especially like because this case, supplements and all, Our Lady and turmeric, like she's trying to be healthy. Right? She's taking information from sources she probably shouldn't.
This is not any better than like Measles' mom, I think. Like, no, it's better.
I think that's an unfair comparison.
I don't know. It's about like Googling shit and feeling like you know better than medical experts.
That's fair, but I feel like we're all trying to hastily research with the time that we have in our lives the best medical and health related information we can find. And so inevitably your wires are going to get crossed. And Santos even says like, the resources you would check it against are mostly toxic waste dumps right now.
Right. Well, yeah, you don't go, living out with the Pitt. You don't go on the CDC website, I guess. No. But also, like, you don't just go on Reddit and be like, everyone's drinking turmeric tea, I guess. The more turmeric, the better. Yeah. Like, anyway, great performance in sort of jaundice makeup from Sara Wyle, I thought. Okay, last but not least, to wrap things up, we're going to talk about this casting spoiler. Yeah. There's some casting news that Rob does not want to poison your minds with if you've somehow avoided it. So leave if you haven't left already.
Seriously. Like, I think this is a big deal if you are not plugged in on this stuff.
Okay. You want to go for it?
I would like to disclose, post-spoiler, leave if you are so inclined.
Yeah.
There's this report today from Variety, a double scoop, that Aisha Harris, who plays Ellis, is going to be a full-time cast member for season 3.
Yeah.
We love to hear it.
We love it.
The trade-off, Supriya Ganesh, who plays Mohan, not going to be in season 3. Will be departing the show. Obviously, there's been a lot of story-related trail leading to this point. We have been breadcrumbed all throughout this season.
We were hoping for like a resurgence from
Right.
Mohan, but it might just be a complete flame out from her.
Just straight off the cliff into geriatrics or wherever or maybe out of medicine, honestly. Like, she's had such a day.
I hope not.
I think you could see a lot of potential outcomes for her. There's a lot of ways to like parse and read the news, but like, how did it hit you, Joe?
Aisha Harris, who we love, as Dr. Ellis. I'll start there. She wrote on her Instagram, Dr. Ellis got student loans to pay off. We got to work a double shift. Been wanting to share this news for a while now. And then she also shouted out Supriya in her post. And she said, to quote my girl, thank you for being a real one from day one. So love to Supriya Ganesh, who's leaving, and joy from Aisha Harris and we love Dr. Ellis. So we're thrilled about that. I do raise an eyebrow. I don't think it's a coincidental double scoop for them to be like, hi, another woman of color is leaving our staff, but don't worry, we've already filled her in with a different woman of color. So one in, one out. Don't worry about it. Like,
it's a little messy.
Not my fave. But something that we've been talking about, and a lot of our listeners in the medical community have written in about this, is that the nature of a teaching hospital is that even if Samira did not have the worst day of her life, like these people rotate in and rotate out all the time. The creators of the Pit have talked about this as an opportunity to sort of like introduce new people. We get Joy and Ogilvie are here this season as our new med students. So like, and I've been a little worried about that. I'm like, how can they bend the plot to keep so many of our favorites around when like the
How long
nature...
can we keep these high schoolers in high school?
Right, exactly. I don't want Saved by the Bell college years.
Yeah.
So like, this is just going to happen. I'm sad that it's happening this way for Samira, seemingly on like a note of defeat and not I'm excited to go do a fellowship in XYZ.
Right.
Presumably we'll get another, just like with Dr. Collins this season, presumably we'll get another like in passing recap of what happened to Dr. Mohan, who left the ED. But I'm bummed. We love Mohan. We've been talking all season about how much we love her. We love this character. But also I had actually seen some speculation earlier in the season from the fandom that Supriya specifically, and there's a couple other people like Sean Hattasey or Patrick Ball. There's a couple people who have like started to pop elsewhere in their career because of the Pit. And so they might be better primed than some of the other actors to want to look elsewhere.
Sure.
Like Kathleen Lanasa is not going to be looking around because she's winning Emmys for playing Nurse Dana. But if you're on like a big ensemble cast and you're Supriya Ganesh, one of the most beautiful women alive and very talented, like perhaps you're like, hey, there's some, and
maybe you can book your own pilot.
She and Patrick Ball are both doing a lot of stage work, so like maybe this is a good thing for her career, but I'm bummed about it personally. Like, I'm not happy about it.
I'm absolutely bereft. Like, Mohan's one of my favorite characters on the show. And I think it's just such a great, fully realized version of a person working in this setting. And Supriya, I just think has done a really wonderful job with her. So I get it. I hate it. Thanks. Unfortunate for all involved, especially me and Supriya Ganesh.
But this is not to say we're thrilled that Aisha Harris is going to be here in a more serious fashion. I'll be curious to track other. So what that tells me, especially her post about like working a double shift. Like, so it sounds like it's not just Dr. Ellis is moving to the day shift, but that
it might be a metaphor. It might be
maybe. But Dr. Ellis being there on a double tells us that we're probably not getting Pitt nights, even though we had wondered if maybe we would.
It's probably true.
Chris on the watch floated this idea of like, what if we start the shift 5 hours later so we get just like more of the night shift, especially given like 2 new members of the night shift that we met inside of this episode. So we get like even more time with Sean Hattasey. I'm certain that the fandom would love that. But that means less time with Dr. Mel King or Dr. Langdon or whoever else your favorite might be.
It's true. But I do feel like, and this episode is a testament to it, some of the best episodes of The Pit are the changeover episodes. Yeah. And some of that is just that you're getting these people who are haggard and depleted of energy interacting with new elements for the first time in hours. So if we shift that to mid-season, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it could be an interesting construction.
I will say, like, comparing, like, Javadi's hair, which is just, like, to, like, your Mateos, whose curls are crisp and fresh and ready to go. So
his curls are just that way all the time, I feel.
That's true. All right, anything else you want to hit that we haven't?
I did have one more thing I wanted to hit about Dr. Conley and her introduction to the show. Just because, I mean, I love everything about that sequence with Javadi, and specifically using Javadi as a counterpoint who has been on top of her game. We know she knows her stuff. And from the second Dr. Conley walks in the room, it's like Javadi needs a translator. Like, Robby and Ellis are having to, like, decipher what she's saying in a way that, obviously there's hierarchy in the Pit. Everyone's reporting to Robby on the floor, et cetera, et cetera. We just walked through the whole freaking org chart for the night shift. So hopefully you understand that. But like there's a hierarchy to the medical specificity of knowledge happening here that I thought was like a really cool dynamic to bring in the room. And specifically for someone like Javadi who knows so much to be just completely lost in even trying to keep up with conversation.
I think it's, I love that. But I also just like the introduction of Park the Shark. Like let's bring in these various specialists. Like it's quite fun to see.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah, the heavy hitters. All right. That's been the 7 p.m. hour on the Pitt. 2 more hours to go. Devastated that the season's almost over.
I know.
I could take the Pitt all year round, honestly. So,
Don't threaten us with a good time. Night shift, then back to the day shift, and apparently the medium shift. I think we have lots of variations we can hit.
Absolutely. Thank you to Devon and Renaldo for filling in for Kai Grady this week. Thank you to everyone here who's here at Sycamore. It's a whole crew. We're big fans. We love you guys so much. Thank you to Rob Mahoney.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks to our listeners. Keep those emails coming. We'll see you next week. Bye.